Carrying a set to the point where you are forced to utilize 100% of your momentary muscular ability, audience, is the single most important factor in increasing strength and size. Working to a point of momentary muscular failure, where another rep is impossible despite your greatest effort, ensures that you pass through the breakover point, or that point in the set below which you go and growth will not be stimulated, and above which you grow and growth will be stimulated. Interesting to note here, even the detractors of high-intensity training force theory have to admit that the last rep of a set is the most productive. Think about it. All these people, many of them knuckleheads, who claim high-intensity training theory is bunk. Now, what's the first principle of the theory of high-intensity training? The principle of intensity. When they say high intensity doesn't work, there's no validity, that's like saying the first rep is better than the last. So if you can curl 100 pounds for 10 reps, just do one rep. Forget the last 9, because intensity doesn't matter. Come on. I had a client of mine, he's now a regular client. I was telling Brian this earlier. He called me several months ago. He was in a quandary. He said, Mike, I don't know. I'm awfully confused. I don't know if I should sign up with you or Charles Poliquin. His name is Mac. I said, Max, if you're that confused and you can't see on the face of it the difference between Charles Poliquin and I really don't want you. Sign up with him. You deserve each other. Anybody who denies, this is the point, all the semi-jokes aside, if you believe that the first rep of a set to failure is better than the last rep of a set, you're either so stupid that you don't deserve my presence, as Arthur Jones used to say, or you just got something very wrong with you. Obviously, the last rep of a set to failure is the most productive. Now, there have been a few individuals, not necessarily high-intensity advocates, who have raised the intelligent question. I'm not saying everybody who's against high intensity has no intelligence. They're just on their developmental way to finally embracing this. And I mean that sincerely. A few individuals have raised the intelligent question as to whether it is actually necessary to train to failure. They say, Mike, how do you know for sure that 100% intensity of effort is absolutely required to stimulate growth? Maybe it's only 67% or 82 or 91. It's a good question. How do we know? Well, the problem here, audience, would be one in measuring intensity. There are, in fact, only 2 perfectly accurate measures of intensity. 0% when you're totally at rest, and 100% intensity when you're exerting yourself with maximum effort. So long, here's the point, so long as you are exerting yourself with 100% intensity of effort, you will have passed through every possible breakover point. 62%, 79, 84, 93. As long as you go to 100, you pass through every possible growth stimulation point, you see. That's why we keep stressing train to failure. It's not going to hurt you. Not only is it desirable, it's absolutely necessary so that you know you stimulated growth. Does that help anybody? Most of you know this already. No? It's new material. Some of this is a little bit abstract, I know. But if you listen, you take notes, and you reflect on what you wrote down later. Again, just like the first time you sat down in kindergarten, you didn't fully understand the ABCs. Think about this stuff later, and you'll learn to think logically about exercise, so you won't have to keep running compulsively to the newsstands every month, grabbing up a handful of magazines, running home, locking the bedroom door, tearing the phone out of the wall and scavenging the pages for 4 hours, hoping that someday you'll find a magic routine. That's like playing Russian roulette with your life. It doesn't work. Man's specific physiological characteristics dictate what training causes must be enacted to achieve the desired effect. That is, an optimal increase in strength and size. Not my opinion, not the whim, the will, or the wishes of the majority, but nature. Nature requires what you've got to do to stimulate growth. The primary causal determinant, the first cause, being emotionally driven instead of conceptually directed, they seem to operate on the warm, fuzzy notion that if their desire to achieve a goal is great enough, that's all they need, just sheer desire. And never having made it a policy to check for inappropriate mental habits, they semi-consciously resort to the unchecked, unchallenged notion, again, more is better. If stated in words, these people's basic attitude would be, I want big muscles so badly. If I persevere and go to the gym slavishly every day, eventually I have to succeed. After all, everything I've heard in the culture, everything I've read suggests that if I'm relentless, if I'm a slave to my art, through sheer dint of unrelenting effort, I will succeed. Which is Arnold Schwarzenegger's favorite concrete-bound concept. Just keep trying, just sweat, don't ever give up, and eventually you'll succeed. You know how many people have failed with that idea? Every failure. Well, the joke is on them how pathetically wrong they are. As I indicated emphatically numerous times just a while ago, it is the laws of nature that dictate the training causes that must be enacted to achieve your goals. Neither a wish, a whim, a hope, a dream, a wish, or desire is sufficient to cause a muscle mass increase. I don't care how special your mommy thinks you are, how long you pray to God at night, that is not enough to affect a buildup of muscle mass beyond normal levels. Neither is the application of a false idea or theory blindly accepted. I made the point a minute ago that man's physiologic nature demands the imposition of a high-intensity training stress as a first necessary cause, but that it is not sufficient cause to affect the desired result. One of man's specific physiologic characteristics dictates that the training stress must be cautiously regulated in terms of volume and frequency. It is his strictly limited recovery ability. The human being does not possess an infinite capacity for tolerating the exhaustive effects of intense physical stress. In fact, audience, and this is literally true, nothing in the universe is infinite, even the universe itself, including the biochemical reserve of resources that make up recovery ability. This fact is what led Arthur Jones to state, it is only rational to use that which exists in limited supply as economically as possible.